Welcome to Follow Your Curiosity, where we explore the inner workings of the creative process. I'm your host, Nancy Norbeck. My guest this week is actor Colin Spaull, who began acting as a child and is still going strong. His early appearances include the role of Pip in the BBC's Great Expectations and Peter in Heidi, and since then, he's been in everything from Coronation Street to Doctor Who. Colin talks with me about acting school, why he prefers theater to television, his experience on The Murder Game, which had no script, and what it's like to encounter the Cybermen close up on Doctor Who, and a lot more. Here's my conversation with Colin Spaull. Colin Spaull, thank you so much for joining me on Follow Your Curiosity today. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it as well. I'm glad we can have last to it.
Thank you. That's great. So I have just finished reading your book, Colin Who, but not everyone has. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you the same question that I ask everyone, which is, were you always a creative kid, or did you land in the creative area later on in life?
What do you mean by decide to become an actor? Is that what you're saying?
Or otherwise creative?
I don't know. Maybe I was. It doesn't stand out to me that I was anything. I didn't paint things or design anything. I just had some sort of an affinity to for the ability to learn not languages, but lines and things like that. But no, and if that refers to also the book,
Mm-hmm.
But no, not really. I decided to do it ages ago. But I think it sounds very silly. When I was about 17 or 18, and I was beginning to make a bit of a name for myself as an actor in England, and I thought, I should write an autobiography. And I thought, no, you silly devil, you can't write an autobiography. You're only 17, for God's sake. So I left it until about 3 years ago.
Well, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, okay.
So someone obviously decided that you needed to go off to drama school because you went off when you were quite young.
Well, it was a teacher. I always remember his name. His name was Mr. Probert. And Mr. Probert must have said something to my parents on the lines of, Colin's quite expressive in his reading. He's showing an affinity for, I'm not quite sure what, but obviously something. And it was suggested that it might help if I went to a drama school and took drama lessons, which is the way it happened. And my parents then enrolled me in what was then the most famous drama school in London. It was called the Italia Conti Stage School. And it was one of the first and still one of the very best of drama schools. And I was enrolled, and I used to go on a Saturday morning for 2 hours for drama lessons. That went on for about 6 or 8 months. And they were also, as being a drama school, they were also an agency for young actors. They looked after the young actors that were being taught. And anyway, so I duly went and started learning Shakespeare, which I'd never really had much to do with in my earlier young life. I was about 11 when I went. And then they suggested that it might be more beneficial if I were to become a full-time student and therefore go for education as well as drama lessons. And that's how it happened. I became a full-time student after about 6 months. And then I started getting little odd jobs on the telly when they were looking for kids playing in the street or that sort of stuff. And it progressed from there.
What did you think about it? I mean, did your parents just decide that you were going to go do this, or did they have a conversation with you and ask you, hey, what do you think?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely they did. Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't just turn around to me one day and said, oi, you're going to go to an acting school, mate. That's it. Off you go. That didn't happen. I said, oh, yeah, great. So I loved it. Every Saturday morning for 2 hours, I loved it. And loved it even more when I became a full-time student. It meant I left ordinary school. I was only educated in the mornings, and the rest of the time was just brilliant. We were doing drama, stage, dance, direction, singing, voice control. It was just another world. I loved it.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like, as a kid, I would have absolutely eaten that up with a spoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, they had an agency and they started
Yeah.
getting you roles, and the early ones were more along the lines of Shakespeare.
No, not
Oh, were
really.
they?
No. Shakespeare didn't come into my life really. I mean, we studied it at drama school. We had to learn all these soliloquies, which I still remember to this day. No, it was my first. I think my first major role. The BBC, in their wisdom, decided that they were going to do a serialization of Dickens' Great Expectations, and so my agent said to me, the BBC want to see you. So I duly went along with about 300,000 other lads of my age and read for the part of Pip in Dickens's Great Expectations. And fortuitously, it worked out that I got the part. And so there was I playing the lead in a teleseries. It was a 13-part series, but of course, as Pip was a boy, which was what I was going to play, we did perhaps 4 episodes, and then someone else took over as Pip as the young man. So that was my big break, and from then on, I started getting. I did a lovely series called Heidi. I don't know if you know Heidi, which is about the Swiss girl and lived with her granddad in the mountains in the Alps. The BBC, in its wisdom, unfortunately, didn't take us to the Alps location. We went to a local zoo, and so I played Peter the Goatherd in Heidi, which was another smashing character, and then. These were all sort of Sunday afternoon serials, which the BBC were very good at making. And then shortly after that, the BBC once again decided that they would like me to do a series called The Secret Garden. And I played Dickon, the boy with all the animals, the Yorkshire lad with all the animals. And so it went on from there. And then eventually I got some theatre work. I did a play at the Theatre Royal Windsor, my first stage appearance in a play, and it was called it's gone right out of my mind. No, I can't think of it. It'll come back to me. But I did that, and then that moved on to other things, and then I was eventually asked to join the 1957 Old Vic company at the Old Vic, and I played all the boy parts in Shakespeare for that season. That's where my Shakespeare came in.
So how did you like the Shakespeare versus everything else? Were you at an age where it was, I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but I'll say these words the way you tell me to, or was it more than that?
I suspect, if I'm honest, yes, you're probably that, hitting the right note on that. And it was only the latter years I thought to myself, oh my God, you were working with such unbelievably amazing people, which with the stagecraft, and I learned so much after a year there, and then I went into the West End several times playing major roles in the West End, and but it was a great help, and I really felt that I should have paid more attention to those lovely people and the skill. I did pay a lot of attention, obviously, because I obviously carried off the parts in the way that was necessary, and but it was great. Yeah, I should have listened more and been more aware of the fact that how lucky I was to be in that. I'm a South London boy. I'm not born not in the sound of Bow Bells, but I am a Cockney, I suppose, in a way. But I lost my accent at drama school, and but I still come back to it now and again. I quite often play, the boys who talk like that all the time. One of them, lads, and I still do it now and again. But I've lost it basically. But no, I talk posh, as my grandchildren used to tell me.
Did losing the accent like that affect? I mean, did it? I would think if I were a parent and my child suddenly started talking very differently, it would be a little unsettling at the very least. I mean, how did that affect other people around you outside the school?
I don't know really, because by that time, I'd moved into my drama school. The people were all quite well spoken there. And then the people I began to mix with were also well spoken. I mean, I didn't go overnight. I didn't suddenly go tall like that and become terribly proper. That didn't happen, but it gradually did. And this is the way I speak now. I mean, maybe it probably take about 60 years, I suppose, for me to lose my accent.
Oh, then maybe it was gradual enough that they didn't really notice it much.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just interesting because accents are such a big part of our identity.
Oh, they are. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the Americans still say, "Oh, I love your accent," which is, and I say, "Well, I love yours." So it works both ways.
Yeah. Wow. So you managed to do lots of TV as a kid, and then Shakespeare, which had to also have been a bit of culture shock, I would think, after things like Heidi, though Dickens not quite as much. And then I feel like I have to tell you, I sat down last night and I was looking at your IMDb page while I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I said, he's been in absolutely everything. And while it's not absolutely everything, reading through, it certainly feels like absolutely everything. I mean, so many things that I know are classic British shows like Z Cars and Dixon of Dock Green and all of the soaps that even we've heard of over here, even though we've never seen them, like Coronation Street and Holby City. I mean, it's such a huge range.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's so much to talk about in all of that, but
there is.
How did the transition between doing child acting and then growing up, because you hear so much about child actors who are so famous and do so well, and then something happens, and it's usually they can't adapt or it doesn't go as well for whatever reason. How was that for you?
Well, you can probably guess that you're not the first person that's ever asked me that transition question,
right?
And but it was fine. It was seamless because I started as an 11-year-old boy playing youngsters, but every part I got was in line with my age. I didn't do Great Expectations as a 13-year-old and suddenly be offered the lead in Z Cars, and playing a 29-year-old. It was a gradual. The parts were within my age limit, so that was very lucky. And I continued working all the time.
Well, that does make sense that would make it easier.
Yeah.
So you're growing with the roles and the process,
with the parts
and
yeah.
That is very lucky.
I know. Very lucky.
How much of your career do you attribute to luck versus timing versus talent versus, I mean, I don't know if it's even possible to break it down that way, but
I don't think it is. I don't think I could say, oh yes, I'm absolutely so brilliantly talented that work just falls into my lap. I'm so brilliant. It's not that. It's lucky enough to have made a name for myself. That name just push you along. And you become well known, not publicly, not walking down the street. Oh, there's Colin Spaull. But casting directors, they say, oh, we're doing a new film and we're looking for Tom says, oh, Colin Spaull. Oh, yeah, of course. But I know Colin, but I'll get him in to read for the part. So that was what it was. Being known within my business is and being able to always come up with the goods, always on time, knowing my lines. I mean, all that. People say to me, I get youngsters come up. Oh, I want to be an actor. Any suggestions? Any advice? And I say, well, if you really believe in yourself, then things will happen. But it is a very, very tough business, and but all I can say is that to just learn the lines and don't bump into the furniture, which is the old adage that once I think was quoted by I can't think of someone. It was Noel Coward. It was Noel Coward that said that. So.
Well, and it's interesting your comment if you really believe in yourself.
Yes, because you get kicked in the teeth so many times. You get your agent said, go and read for this lovely part. It's playing Fred Bloggs in so and so and so. So you think, that's me. I can do that standing on my head. Fantastic. You go along, you don't get it. And then you see it on the television, someone else has got it. You think, I could have done that. Why didn't they use me? But that's the way it's the casting director. They probably thought, we like Colin, but we like this bloke better. It's as simple as that.
Do you think that getting used to that kind of rejection is useful in the long term?
It is, but it happens that way. You get used to it. You don't go waltzing into the studio and to read first and think, I'm walking in and say, I've got this, not a problem at all. You're always fighting. You're always hungry to get that job. But as I say, if you don't get it and you really want to do something like in the business, you want to be in the business, then ride with it, go with the flow. My agent will get me another interview. It's one of those things. It's a part of being an actor.
I would think that at some point you have to become sort of zen about it. Like, that wasn't meant to be mine, but something else will be.
I suppose you do. Yes. I suppose certain things have happened like that. And you've gone for something, haven't got it. And then something else turned up and think, oh my God, thank God I didn't get that part I went for last week. This part I've just got this week is a damn sight better.
So sometimes it just works out the way it's meant to, I guess.
No, absolutely. Or other times you do nothing and, I don't know, go to the pub every day for 6 weeks. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Well, you do talk in the book about how you've taken advantage of those times by going out and getting other jobs that have eventually given you skills that you ended up using. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've done a couple of things. I worked on a building site that drove a huge lorry for a scenery moving company for a few weeks, and then I was getting bored with it, and suddenly my agent said, "Oh, they want to see you for so-and-so. You've already checked the job into." And I'm sorry, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I've got a job. So that was it. Yeah, great.
So you talk about how you prefer stage to television. Yeah. And I'm wondering if you can go into a little bit about what it is that makes that difference for you.
I think that when I started in the business and theatre, I've spoken about this so many times. I'm just trying to think of some easier way of putting it. It's in my mind, a lot of actors these days, it's television. They do a telly and they're a star. But if you put them in a different situation, i.e., you've got to learn 2.5 hours of dialogue with no mistakes. You can't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, cut, can we go again?" No, you blooming well can't. This is, to my mind, and a lot of actors' minds, it is where the actor's craft comes into being. You are alone on that stage, with the other actors, of course. But if you muck it up, you can't go back and do it again. You can't say to an audience, "Oh, so sorry, loves. Can we go again? I mucked that one up." I don't think so. We just paid, 35 quid to get and see this blooming play. You can't start again. That's where the craft comes in. You are in charge of your performance, and if anything goes wrong, you have to get out of it. You do have the benefit of a prompt man in the prompt corner who's there on the book all the time, but he will only come in and give you a prompt at the very, very last minute. It feels like forever that you've gone wrong. I mean, once only it happened to me. I know it was a nightmare. I thought it was like 4 hours, but it was nanoseconds apparently. You just think, what am I going to say? And then you come in and that's it. But there's a lovely story about two doyens, theatrical ladies, two doyens of the West End Theatre in the 30s. And they were doing a two-hander, a play, two of them on stage together. and they both of them dried, stone dead, totally forgot their lines. And after a few moments, the prompt corner whispered something, went, pss, 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 pss. Nothing happened. Once again, nothing happened. Once again, after about the third time of trying, one of the old ladies walked over to the prompt corner and said, "We know the line, dear, but which one of us says it?" That apparently is a true story.
Oh, my.
But yes, it is a different. I mean, I hate first nights. I am so nervous. I can't tell you how. You're standing backstage waiting to go on, waiting for your cue. And you think, "Oh my God, what am I doing here? I could be in the pub. I could be watching a movie at home. And then your cue comes and you're on, and it's gone. You're on. Away you go.
Yeah. But there is also that energy of that audience that
Oh,
I
yeah.
would think, I've never been on a TV or film set. I have done a little bit of community theater many moons ago, but I would think that you would be missing that energy because of the way that a TV or film set works.
That's right. But the onus is on you to give a great performance, and not just a great performance for the critics on the first night, but every performance, because it's a brand new performance that these people are seeing. You may be running for 3 years, and you have to give that upbeat performance every night for 3 years. Yeah, all the energy that the part demands and requires, and that's got to be done. And another thing that people say to me, youngsters, what do you suggest? And do you prefer film to theatre? And I say, well, it's with theatre, there is no margin for error. You need to listen. And I said, you're on stage, you may know your lines upside down, backwards, every which way but loose. And you may be waiting for a line which says, for argument's sake, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And you say, "Yes, please." Now, one night, the line might come, "Fancy a cuppa?" It's the same cue, but you're not my line. No, that's not what I want to hear. No, I'm not answering that. No. But you listening. The other actors paraphrase it, but it's the same meaning. I still say, "Oh, yeah, I'll have a cup of tea, please." Do you know what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
So the word is listen. Listen. Even if you've been running for 25 years at the West End, like the Mousetrap, which has been running for 45 years in our West End. Yeah, well, that's it. That's my talk about theatre. To pull the living day out of your people.
It's a real presence. You have to be fully present.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a challenge. But again, I think most of us are not fully present in our daily lives, so we don't appreciate what happens when you're in that state. Because, we're driving down the road thinking about going to the grocery store and what we need to buy and what we're making for dinner and all of that. We're not really actually there. Which is also why I think listening is a lost art these days.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast a couple of years ago. I think it was Farnham Street's podcast, but I could be wrong about that. And all I remember is that they were talking to a musician, and she said musicians are some of the only people on the planet who are actively taught how to listen. And I think that goes for actors too. I think you really, you think you're listening a lot of the time, but most of us really aren't.
Yeah, it's a funny old business, but it's been good to me, and I've loved every minute of it. I wouldn't have dreamt of being anything else for some. It's been an amazing career, and I feel very, very lucky. I still find it quite strange that someone offers me a lovely part, and I think, well, I'd have done this for nothing. They're paying me to do this. But I didn't tell them I would do it for nothing. And
no.
Wonderful chances, wonderful people you meet, and I've met some great people, lovely people that I've worked with, and thoroughly enjoyed their company.
Well, and one of those people, in fact, this is what inspired my phone call to my friend last night, is Julian Fellows.
Oh, Julian, yes.
Because a couple of years ago, this particular friend, my friend Lissa, called me up and said, I have this set of Noel Coward DVDs, and I just realized that one of them is Present Laughter, and in a very small part is a young Julian Fellows. Would you like to come watch? So we did, and it turned out she had been to see that show in London in 1981. And so last night, when I got to that part of your book, I called her and I said, "You're never going to believe this, but this is who I'm talking to tomorrow." And I sent her a screenshot of the photo from the book. But, that was quite a cast. And Julian Fellows was certainly well before even dreaming of something like Downton Abbey.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like to work with him back then? And are you still in touch with him at all?
No, not really. You don't keep in touch with everybody, No, but he didn't even give me a part in Downton, which is a pain in the backside, but there we go. But yeah, it was lovely to work with. I enjoyed working with him. We went out. We all went to. He had some connection with the House of Lords or the House of Commons in Westminster, so we all went for tea on the members' terrace along the Thames. That was quite nice, arranged by. He's very posh. He's extremely posh. Is Julian, or Lord Fellows, of course, as I should call him, really. And his wife is a lady in waiting to the Queen. So they're quite a well-to-do family. But no, I don't keep in touch with him. But I thoroughly enjoyed his company. We had a great time together.
Well, I remember it being quite an amusing show, so I'm sure that it wasn't hard to have a great time together.
No, it was good fun to do.
And you mentioned that the Queen Mum came for a visit at one point.
Yes.
What was she like?
Oh, she was absolutely lovely. We were told by the company manager before the show went up. He said, when the tabs come down at the end of the performance, don't leave the stage. And we went, why? He said, someone wants to meet you. We thought, okay. And there were various people throughout during the interval going up to the tabs and looking to see if they see who it was. But and then someone said, I think it's the Queen Mother. She's in the front. So, and it was. So she came backstage and met us all. And it was lovely. She's a very, very pleasant lady.
I remember, not a whole lot about her, but I always was fascinated by her. So I loved reading that you actually got a chance to meet her and that she would go to the trouble to say, I'd like to meet the cast after the show.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yes. Yeah. My mother was totally impressed that I'd met the Queen Mother. She's, because my parents had nothing to do with show business whatsoever. Although my father worked for a television company where he was in charge of scenery. So not exactly anything to do with being in front of the stage. But it says in my book at one particular point, I was working with the television company that my father worked for, and he had to provide a coffin for me because I died in this particular play, which is in the book. It's quite strange.
Must have been a bit surreal.
Yes, he's a nice chap, my dad. Yeah, he's a pretty much down to earth chap. I need to get a coffin for my boy. Oh, lovely, marvelous.
Was your mother the type of person who called up all of her friends and told her?
Oh, good gracious me, yes. We have our weekly TV guide is a thing called Radio Times. I did many of them, but the original one was called the Radio Times. And when I did Great Expectations, I made the front cover of the Radio Times. There's a picture in the book, I believe, of the cover of it. And of course, my mother on the way to work, to the office where she was working, saw it on the newsstand and didn't realise. And she said, "Oh, that's my boy." And she bought every copy that the news was, and I think she bought every copy of any other newsagent in the area. We have hundreds of them. I don't know what we've done with them, but I've got one framed. I have one framed in my house. So
that seems fair.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
I mean, and it's great that you had parents who were so supportive from the very beginning too, because so many people want to do something like acting and are consistently told, no, you'll never make any money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of this. It's whatever. Yeah. And in my experience from interviewing people for this podcast, it makes it so much harder. It doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it so much harder for people to actually do the things that they want to do.
Yes, yeah. When I went to drama school, I started getting work. Obviously, had I not started getting work, then I might have been in a different situation. I might have said, well, I don't want to do it then. I'm not anything. There were lots of friends I made there that some of them I still keep in touch with, who have nothing to do with the business. They did nothing. They did their 2 years at Contis or 3 years at Contis, and but never progressed. And I'm lucky enough to have progressed,
Yeah, and I think the fact that, your parents were not feeding you lines like, this is a waste of time and effort and you should become a welder, was a huge factor. It had to have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always does. So since you mentioned friends from Conti's, I would love to hear about your friendship with Graham Harper and how he went in a very different direction and became a director, but is known for being the kind of director who listens to actors. And,
sorry, Graham who?
Graham Harper?
Never heard of him. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Graham. Yeah. Lovely, lovely man. We were Conti boys together. And, oh, yes. Yeah. And it was about 12 or 13. And I played the part of Noddy in Noddy in Toyland, which was on every Christmas for about 6 weeks over the Christmas period, just doing matinees. And Graham was in it. He was a Conti boy. He played a character called Moonface. And you hate me for this. And he played Moonface. And but he was a good actor. He was a good actor, Graham. He did a lot of work as a boy actor and into his youth. And but then he decided, one day he said, I think, I really want to direct. I just feel as I want to direct. I don't really want to. So he decided to go behind the camera, and I decided I was going to stay in front. And that's how it started. We've been friends ever since. I've worked with him many, many times. And a lot of people said, oh, yeah, it's only because you know Graham Harper you got that part. But in certain ways, it is an opening to get that part. But as Graham's always said to me, he said, Colin, I'll put you up. I would like you to play so-and-so and so-and-so in this. But he said, I cannot give it to you. You need to come in with all the other actors. And in Cockney rhyming slang, we call them Maxes, Max Factors. So with all the other Maxes and read for it. And which I did. Sometimes I got it, sometimes I didn't. But worked with him a few times as a director. He's a good director. He knows actors. He knows what actors are feeling. He knows what it's like. And also he listens to actors, because a lot of directors say, well, I want you to move there, and then drink that cup of coffee and walk over and then put it down and then go and to sit down. So, but then, Graham will say that. And then I'll say to him, Graham, that's fine, Graham. Can we just try it this way? If I don't stand up at the time you want me to, I can get over there a bit earlier for me to then to go over to there. Yeah. All right, Gov, try that. Yeah, try that, Gov. You do it. He said, yeah, that's it. Keep it in your way. He listens to actors. And an actor knows if you get told to do something and it's wooden, it's not flowing. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't go with the line or the action. You know what I mean? And he's great. He listens, and he will. If not, he will insist. You say, no, Cole. I see it this way, and because my camera's going to be here, and then otherwise, if I do it that way, I've got to put another camera here, which then mucks up my other shot, especially if it's a live multi-camera'd, with cameras going all over the place. It's like the M1 at rush hour, and it's not. But now, of course, it's virtually done on one camera.
Well, and I did notice that when you, in the book, talked about the difference between Doctor Who in the 80s and Doctor Who now. And I was so surprised, because it never would have occurred to me that it would be possible to do everything with one camera. If I think of shots from different angles and things like that, and therefore you must have more than one camera. So
yeah, very rarely. No, it's a one camera. They shoot it like a film. They do a master. And then from the master, they will then move the camera. They'll do a two-shot, an MCU, medium close-up, or CU close-up, a different angle, POVs, different POVs. They do it like a film. Not like it as Graham said, you have to choreograph, especially if you're going out live. You've got 5 cameras whizzing around all over the studio with mic booms and things. It's a nightmare. Quite often, you do a camera rehearsal, obviously, and then you're in the middle of a shot, and then suddenly you see a camera come through a window. It's too early. So that is why there's a camera rehearsal, obviously. But no, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. You get all your angles, sure, but it takes time to choreograph these cameras, where they're going to be, which character they're going to be on a 2-shot medium. It's a nightmare. I wouldn't want to do it. I'll just sit there in front of the camera, let them sort that out.
That's so fascinating to me. It's just completely disrupted my whole mental image of what happens.
Yeah. Most things now are one camera. The last multi-camera I did a comedy series called with Catherine Tate, and I played her neighbour, Bernie, and we did that in front of a live audience, which is quite often they do it, and that's multi-camera live audience stuff, because they don't want to stop it each time,
right?
Rearrange a camera, and once you rearrange a camera, you've got to rearrange the lighting. All very clever. Nothing to do with me. I got the easy part.
Does it change your experience as an actor at all, going from multiple cameras to single ones?
No, you have to then be able to absorb the interruption in your flow and bring back the energy again. Do you know what I mean? You do it multiple times, because once you do your close-up, then the next person in the shot does a close-up. So you're doing the lines for that person. But you get used to it. You come back with the same performance every time. Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah. Huh. So since we've already mentioned the comparison between Who ancient and modern, as you put it in the book.
Yeah.
You are one of the few people who has been both on Ancient Who and Modern Who, and Graham is the only director who has directed for both.
Right, yeah.
And you note in the book that the whole process is so different now than it was back then. And I'm wondering if you could tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so much now one of the few. I'm still amongst a band of a few actors that have done. There's quite a few now that have been in the classic and the new. At the time when I did it, there was probably about 2 or 3 of us, but there's more and more now. Yes, the difference being is the rehearsals. On a Monday morning, you turn up at what we just called the Acton Hilton, which is a rehearsal room in Acton in London, and you would sit round a table, all have coffee, and then you would introduce yourself. If the director would introduce you to the other cast members, and then you do a read through. And during the read through, the PA would do a rough timing of the running of the show, and then after the read through, we would then begin to block the scenes. In other words, moves where we're going to move. And so you've got a script in your hand, so you say your lines and walk over. Oh, there's a Dalek. You move around, and then you block for a day or so, and then you start. Then on the following day, on the Tuesday, you then start putting a bit more bones onto the character, and you begin to eventually lose your script. You should be off the book by about the end of Wednesday, and then you build on the character. And what is nice about having rehearsals is that you can bounce off the other actors that are in the scene with you, and you only get to learn to bounce off the other actor if you're with him a long time and working on the same scene, and you can get that scene better and better and better and better, But then we went up to Cardiff when I did the next one about 28 years later or something. You just taken onto the set, and we do a camera word run. Let's do a camera rehearsal. Let's shoot it. Boom, away.
Wow.
hoping that you come up with a character that the director likes. But it's not as cutlery as that, but it is literally no rehearsals. You don't spend a week rehearsing the whole thing, and that's how that works.
That must feel very strange.
But then again, it's the way of the business now. It's been like that for quite a while now, so it's gradually come in. So you get used to it. You get used to it.
Yeah. Well, and you were in the episodes that brought the Cybermen back.
Yeah.
Certainly an iconic villain in Doctor Who, rivaled only by the Daleks.
Yeah.
I talked to John Davey a couple of weeks ago about what it's like to be in the Cybermen and Dalek costumes. And I'm just curious, I'm not going to lie. The Cybermen scare me way more than the Daleks do because there's a person in there and you can tell there's a person in there, especially in the older series where they looked less metal and, you can really tell that there was a person in there. I think that added to the horror of them. But what's it like to be on stage with the Cybermen?
I remember when we were in Cardiff, I came out of my trailer to do a scene, and two of them were standing outside. And I got out, I just sort of looked at them, so I went, "All right, lads." They were big boys. Yeah. And I think, if I remember rightly, John actually killed me.
Oh, really?
I think it was John that picked me up and threw me across the room. Well, it wasn't really John. It was the men on the machine. I was on wires.
Mm-hmm.
Yanked me, but it was John who did the deed. I've never spoken to him since. I saw him a couple of weeks back in where was I? Los Angeles. Yeah, about 4 weeks in Los Angeles. Yeah, he's all over the place. Always see him.
Yeah, he was in LA when I talked to him. It was right after Gallifrey 1, so that must have been
Gallifrey.
Yeah. Now I know I've seen behind the scenes footage, and they're just Cybermen acting like normal people, which is so strange to see too. But I also remember the first time I encountered a Dalek at a convention, and it looked me up and down, and I was sitting there thinking, I know you're not an actual Dalek, but that is still mighty freaky.
Yes. We used to see them at the rehearsal rooms when we did rehearse. They would take the top off, so it's just the bottom half of a Dalek which is on wheels, and the bloke sitting in it without the top on was very strange. He's going around with his hand going, "Exterminate." Just him.
Well, there's an old picture of William Hartnell sitting there like that, I think it's from the Space Museum, and he's looking incredibly impish as he's there, underneath the Dalek top, grinning like a little kid. So it must be more fun than it seems to me that it would be, but then I tend to be kind of claustrophobic, so I don't think I'd want to be sitting inside a Dalek for very long. So, and you're also good friends with Fraser Hines.
Oh, Fraser,
going way back from before you did Who at all.
Oh, way back. Yeah. We were boy actors together, and he, when I was doing Great Expectations, he came in, just played a very minor part in a little lad with a traps boy or something, and we were in the shop with. And then he came in when I was doing Heidi. I think it was Heidi. He came in to do the organ grinder in that. But I've known him for years. We were great mates from a very early age. And we used to knock about together with a group of like-minded lads, all sort of quite well-known faces in the day. We were we had quite a good time because of that. On that, just because you're sort of quite well known at the time, it's quite great fun.
And he's the one who got you into going to Doctor Who conventions in the first place.
Excuse me. Yeah. I didn't really know anything about them. And I think I bumped into, I don't know where I was, probably in a pub or BBC club or something. And he said to me, "Yeah, you were in Doctor Who, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I don't see you on the Doctor Who convention circuit." I said, What convention circuit?" I said, "Blimey." He said, "We go to America." He said, we do the cruise ship. I said, "You're kidding." Anyway, then a few weeks later, I got a phone call from a Glasgow the Doctor Who, Glasgow Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and they asked me if I would be a guest at their convention. And I said, I am exceedingly flattered, and I absolutely would love to be a guest at your convention. I said, but if I came, would any of your guests, your people, know who I was? And this guy said to me, I can assure you, Mr. Spaull, they will know exactly who you are. So I said, all right, then I'll go. So, and I did.
Yeah, us Doctor Who fans tend to be a little too knowledgeable sometimes.
And it's quite, you get asked some very strange questions. And I remember, it wasn't very long ago. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. Somebody said to me, oh, Mr. Spaull, your character, Mr. Crane. I said, yeah. He said, did they name that after where you live? I said, I'm sorry. He said, did they name your character after where you live? I said, why? He said, well, your address is Crane Avenue. And I said, I did not even realise I lived in Crane Avenue. And this guy pointed it out.
It's a little bit terrifying that he knew that.
Well, it was, it was something that my address was there for some reason. I can't remember where it was, but yeah, I didn't actually had no idea that the road I lived in was Crane Avenue. There we go. Bit of useless information.
I was going to ask you if there were, what really surprised you when you finally went, and I hope that wasn't the biggest surprise.
I was just surprised how knowledgeable people were, and it was. I remember, because it was my first one, I remember it distinctly. I walked into the hall to do my little panel and thing, and as I walked between there was all seats one side and seats the other, so I walked down to this little raised stage thing, and as I walked down, I could hear people say, "Oh, look, it's Colin Spaull. It's Colin Spaull. He's coming. It's Colin." And I thought, oh, yeah, fantastic. They did know exactly who I was. Which was brilliant. They're great. I love them. The fans, as I always say, I've done so many conventions now. And at the end, you usually come along and do a little chat afterwards, or a couple of lines if everyone's introduced. And as I always say, and I will continue to say, they thank me for coming. And I say, I should be thanking you, or we should be thanking you, because if it was not for you, we would not be here. And I always say that to the fans.
Yeah. I mean, it's such it's a sort of a singular event.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not been to, I don't know if there are Star Wars conventions. I did go to a Star Trek event once.
I think there are,
many moons ago. But I shouldn't say this because I shouldn't speak for other fandoms that I haven't gone to, but I have to think that, Doctor Who fandom is its own unique group of
indeed.
People, and I think possibly because it's been around for so long, or because there was the hiatus when we didn't have it at all, and then, hey, look, it's back. Yeah. I think maybe there's a level of appreciation and enthusiasm that either is, I don't want to say is absent, because I know, Star Trek fans are just as enthusiastic as we are, but I think it probably comes from a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, still do loads of Star Wars conventions. A mate of mine, no longer with us, unfortunately, and Jeremy Bullock, who was also in Doctor Who at some point. He played Boba Fett in that, and he was around the world as well as Doctor Who and that. He had the two things going for him. Yeah, it's amazing. Fandom's amazing.
Yeah. It is. It can be a force both for good and for evil.
Yeah.
Someone who occasionally sticks a pinky toe into online fandom. Yeah. There are moments when you do have to be reminded that it is just a TV show.
Absolutely.
And, yes. Okay. Do we really want to, lunge at each other this much over one 30-second bit of a scene that probably isn't worth what's happening here? But for the most part, especially in person, I think online is a very different thing, but I think in person, most Doctor Who fans are just excited to go get to be pure geeks for a weekend
Sure.
and be around their people. I mean, I know that's how I feel when I walk in. It's like, ha, I can be a total nerd this weekend and none of these people will think it's strange.
Why not? Absolutely, why not? I applaud it. Brilliant.
Yeah. So there is another show that I wanted to be sure to ask you about because it's so unusual, and that is The Murder Game.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Because well, you know what? I'm going to let you describe it because I think you'll do a better job than I will, but it definitely is not like a normal TV show in most respects.
Have you seen it?
I haven't.
But
I've read about it. Yes, you do, which is part of why I'm fascinated by it.
Yes. Right. Yes, I was asked to read, to go along for this interview for this thing called The Murder Game. And I was actually doing a television series at the time called Down to Earth. And I went for the part in the murder series. And then my agent said, oh, you've got it. And I said, well, I can't do it. I'm doing The Murder Game. She said, oh, yeah, okay, right. Anyway, when I got the scripts for The Murder Game, they were not as I thought or I've been told they were. And so I did about 6 episodes. And I did about 3. And I phoned my agent. I said, this is not working. I'm not playing the characters I was told I was going to be. And I said, I'm not, by any chance, they don't still want me to do The Murder Game. She said, well, it's still open. So I said, well, can you get me out? Can you get through the BBC and get me out of this? Which she did. And so I went to do it. Wow, it was challenging. I loved it. I thought it was one of the best things I've ever done as an actor. There was no script. It was a story. And the BBC had advertised for a group of people for this, joined the Murder Game, and they were trained. They went to a police academy somewhere for a couple of weeks, and they were taught the rudiments of detecting. And then they were all put in a coach, and we came back through a village in Kent, and the bus stopped with all these people that have been on this thing. They said, right, everybody out. It now starts. And they found out that a girl was murdered in a church on the eve of her wedding. We, meanwhile, for about 6 weeks, we had been meeting, and we were each given a character, and I was the girl's dad. But we had to learn about ourselves. We had to learn my mother's maiden name, when did my aunt die, my national insurance number as the character. Where was I born? What street did I live on? And what's your daughter? Where did she go to school? The girl that was married, and what's the name of her friends? And this was just ad lib. And then we arrived on the set, and these people, I was gardening when I started doing something on an allotment. And one of the people approached me and then started asking questions, which I had to answer based on what I knew about the characters that we'd been working on. It was unbelievable. It was pure ad lib. But yeah, fly by the string of your seat of your pants. And then you move on. Yeah.
When you're talking about, we were working on these characters, does that mean that you were all coming up with your characters together? Or, yeah. Okay.
The cast, not the people that were doing the detecting. They had no idea. They were sent to go and see whatever the character was. Say Fred. Go and see Fred, who's in the allotment, and see what he knows. We know that he's the dad of the girl that's just been killed. Just go and question him. So I had no idea. I was going to ask various things that you knew, but it was just ad lib. And then someone else would come in and ask something. It was amazing. It wasn't terribly successful. I believe it was an American idea, So I understand. And apparently didn't go down too well in America either. But as far as an actor, talk about knowing your craft and having to work like that. Stunning. Loved it.
It reminds me so much of improv, except that it's not the kind of improv where you can just say the most ridiculous thing that just comes into your head, which must have made it much more challenging.
Yeah. Improvisation, but real. It's got to be real in time and in association with what's being asked and the situation that they're in as the detectives. It was good. One was 20 grand or something silly, I think it was. I don't know. It was good fun. I loved it. Yeah, good.
I'll have to go hunt it up because it just sounds like such a fascinating idea.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, frightening. I don't know if I could do it now. Well, it was good fun. At least you didn't have any lines to learn.
True.
You come up with something.
Yeah, if I find it, I'll put links to it in the show notes for everybody. So I do want to talk to you about the process of writing this book. Had you ever really sat down to write anything before?
No, I haven't. I narrated it to a friend of mine. He really was a ghostwriter, I suppose, but he just wrote. If I'd have done it, I'm a one-finger typer, not two-finger, one. And I type a letter maybe on this keyboard. I'd go right. I want to put down every EV. I've seen an R. I've seen an R somewhere on this keyboard. Where's that R? Oh, there it is. I'd still be writing it now. Yeah.
So how did it go? Was it more challenging than you expected, or was it more like just sitting down and talking to a friend?
Sitting down talking to a friend, and I'm just narrating various things that have happened in my life. And we managed to cobble a book together. So, I've had so many people read it and said, "Oh, God, there's another one coming out." I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to write." I said, "If it came out, it wouldn't be a book. I think it would probably be a pamphlet. It would be about 2 pages long."
Like, how many autobiographies can you write?
So that's right. Yes. Yeah, it was good, and it was got a few people who said they enjoyed it, and got a nice things about the theatre, the traditions of the theatre, which I love, lots of funny things happened in the theatres, which would be great fun to do.
It's a fun read, and I really appreciated that you did go into things like why you do not say Macbeth in a theater and, how some behind the scenes kinds of things worked, because some of those things I had a little bit of understanding about and others were completely new. So that just added a whole extra dimension.
That's right, yes. And the fact that there's always in the theatre, it's never dark. It's there's always a ghost light on, and which gives the resident ghosts to do what they want to do on the stage when you're not there.
And, I had not heard of that before, and it made me wonder, because apparently I really do have a one-track Doctor Who mind, if that's where the Sylvester McCoy episode Ghostlight either got its name or got some of its inspiration.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what the answer to that might be. So
no, me neither.
Maybe somebody who's listening will know and will tell me.
Yeah, a bit of luck.
But yeah, well, I'm glad that it was a fun experience. I hope you'll think about writing something different, maybe.
Well, yes, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting on now. I mean, I'm nearer the departure gate than I am the arrivals, and so I don't know what the future holds. But I know I've got a lot of gardening to do here in this house. Good job I'm not working at the moment. I'm going to pack and then to get ready to go off to. Anyway, there we go.
Well, it all sounds like a great ongoing adventure.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
It does.
I've been very lucky in my career. I've met some great people, and some lovely people. One of the nicest people, I think. I think also in the book it was David Niven. And I said to people, young people about David Niven, they say who? Well, fair enough, But lovely man, lovely man. Very lucky to have worked with him and spent about 2.5 months with him. So.
Well, and it sounds like he certainly appreciated all of the rest of the cast as well.
Yeah.
It's a great story in the book about everyone chipping in for a gift for him.
Oh, that's right. Yes, military honours and everything. Yes, yeah. Excellent. It was just such good fun. Very disappointed we were filming in the mountains of Austria, and we weren't allowed to ski or do anything, because of course it would null and void the insurance for the company, so we couldn't do any. Not that I could ski anyway, but I tried it once, and that was it. Yeah, in Scotland, and not the place to ski. It's freezing cold. I didn't have the right gear. Another silly episode of my life.
Well, I hope that the adventuring will continue, and certainly it sounds like you're about to have one on the Doctor Who cruise. So I hope that all goes beautifully and, issue free, since everyone is in such close quarters on a cruise.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. It's been a lot of fun.
It's my pleasure, Nancy, and I do hope that your listeners will enjoy my whittering on about various things. So.
Oh, I'm sure they will. That's it for this week. My deep thanks to Colin Spaull for joining me, and to you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Thanks so much. I talk to people all the time who are feeling totally lost, overwhelmed, and stuck creatively. And I know there are lots more of you out there who are feeling the same way. So I made something to help. Check out the link in your podcast app for my creative tune-up kit. It's $37, super affordable, and it's full of my favorite coaching tools to help you rediscover your creative self and make progress fast. I would love to get it into your hands so that you can get unstuck and create beautiful things this year. Follow Your Curiosity is produced by me, Nancy Norbeck, with music by Joseph McDade. If you like Follow Your Curiosity, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to tell your friends. It really helps me reach new listeners.